There's a related point I want to get to. Um, you could say a fallacy that ties in with other fallacies we've talked about. That we tend to think of the present as inherently better than the past.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
give your thoughts on that.
a lot of people, modern progressivism basically believes that every second in the future, right now, the world is better than it was 5 seconds ago because the future is always better than the past. Not necessarily. Sometimes, from an objective standpoint, the best that you can say is that when you weigh the goods and the bads, is that they're equal. That's the best that you can say. Because there's the opposite fallacy that the where people romanticize history and they say that, oh, this was so much better in the past. And particularly now, you get people romanticizing back to the 50s, the 1950s, or not even that. We get people romanticizing back to the 1980s as being like this high point in American culture and morality, which it absolutely was not.
Yeah, I feel like that extends as far back as your love of 80s music and then doesn't necessarily extend past that.
Yeah, that basically goes to, yeah, I like Guns N' Roses. Okay, next question.
Hmm.
Or like, yeah, I like Bon Jovi too. Next question. But the answer is the same to both: is that man is flawed. Man is just as wicked and just as evil and just as fallen, and has just as much potential for evil now as he always has.
Yep.
Are there, like, say, if we talk about the Middle Ages, was the average person's morality in the Middle Ages higher than it is now? Absolutely. At least if we're talking about Europe in the Middle Ages.
Hmm.
Like, the average common working man in Europe had a higher morality than the average common working man today. Absolutely. You know what the average common working man, or even anybody, period, in the Middle Ages didn't have? Penicillin and flushing toilets.
Yeah, I kind of want those things.
We kind of want those things. So, I don't know. Different people would have different metrics. But I would still say that the absolute best that you can say is that all ages are to an extent equal, as far as how the good and the bad. Some are definitely bad.
Hmm.
Some are definitely worse than others. Like, I would say we're currently living in a particularly bad age where science has every possible advancement and is pursuing every possible advancement, but people still can't define what a woman is.
Yeah, so how far have you risen and how far have you fallen?
Which that was not ever going to be a question in the Middle Ages. Nobody had any problem. I guarantee you, not a single person in Europe in the Middle Ages had any problem answering the question of what a woman is. Except maybe either some excessively intellectual theologian hidden away in a monastery somewhere, or some crazy whacked out heretic who lived by himself in the woods. Because weird ideas have always sort of existed on the margins, but I would say that it was definitely not anywhere close to as widespread as it is now, having a hard time describing what a woman actually is. But we have AI, so we're better than everybody back then. Actually, not really.
Yeah, we have more
Actually, you can make
tools.
an argument that makes us worse.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. Like we have
Because
more
we have
tools,
tools and machines that do our work for us rather than us doing the work.
and we're able to do so much more, and we're able to live longer. But we're also, on the flip side, able to screw up a lot more things. So yeah, so progress is new inventions are improvements, but only after a fashion, only if used rightly.
Yeah. So the progressives are wrong, and the romanticizers are wrong.
One is not better than the other. You have to have both.
And the best anecdote that I have for this is another quote that I have from Henri Pirenne, who was a Belgian historian from the 1920s, who was involved very heavily in the start of the humanist movement in history, which is basically what I've been saying, is that look at people in the past as actual human beings and treat them that way and actually have a little bit of empathy
Mm-hmm.
and understanding for maybe their plights and their issues and acknowledge the things that maybe they didn't know. So, the story about Henri Pirenne, I don't remember all of the details, but he was walking through the city once. He was Belgian with one of his, I think, former students, another member of the humanist movement, a younger guy. And they're talking back and forth, and they come upon this building that is freshly built. It's a government building or something. It's only a couple of years. It's either a couple of years old or it was just very recently completed. And the younger man starts scoffing at the building and how this new modern architecture is so terrible and bad. And Pirenne replies basically by saying, "Well, I actually like it. I think it's quite nice. I think it's quite pretty." And the student looks at him and says, "Well, how could you possibly think that? That this new thing is so good?" And Pirenne responded by saying, "If I were an antiquarian, I would have eyes only for old things. I am an historian, therefore I love life."
Which is a brilliant
And
quote.
if
Yeah.
you're an actual historian, you need to not only pay attention to the past, but also the present. You need to be just as involved in the present, if not more so, as you are in the past.
Yeah. Antiquarianism makes me think of antique shops. And there's a reason that the antique shop is not the centerpiece of your town. Like, it exists somewhere,
Yeah.
but it is.
And there will
It's
be
only
some
one
pretty good
facet.
things in there, but
Yeah.
the antiquarian is sort of to the study of history what the suburban woman that goes antiquing just is to
Okay.
regular people who are trying to live. It's like, oh, I just love filling my house with antiques because it's such a great vibe. And no,